Good morning. My name is Scott McLarty. I am the media coordinator for the Green Party of the United States. Welcome to our 2012 National Presidential Nominating Convention here in Baltimore. We're at the University of Baltimore right now. And we are about to begin a press conference featuring Green candidates running for the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. And before that gets underway, let me remind you that tomorrow is nomination day. We will kick off with a press conference for the presidential candidates. This will all take place at the Holiday Inn Inner Harbor in downtown Baltimore. The nomination day program will be in the Chesapeake Room on the first floor of the Holiday Inn, and the press conference will take place on the 12th floor in the Harbor 2 room. So we look forward to seeing you there. And right now I'm going to turn the program over to David Doonan, who is one of our esteemed elected Greens. And David is mayor of Greenwich, New York. And Dave will talk for a few minutes about his experiences as an elected official, who's also a member of the Green Party, and then he will introduce our featured speakers. Here you go, Dave.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. There's two things that really distinguish elected members of the Green Party from other politicians. One, we understand how important it is that we do the best possible job we can to represent the party. While we're all individuals, we're also symbols of what the Green Party stands for. And so we have that special burden of responsibility. The second thing that really distinguishes elected members of the Green Party is our desire and understanding to really work with the community to get citizen participation involved as much as possible. There are so many members of every community that really are concerned about their neighborhoods, their city, their county, and they really, really want to get involved, but they don't necessarily know how. Greens understand that, and we try and open up the governmental process as much as possible. One really significant way that we've done that in Greenwich is we encouraged a number of citizens who were involved and interested in trying to build a safe community for children. We then worked with them to develop a non-for-profit, which is now working very closely with the village government. They've been able to develop and open up a community youth center oriented toward the electronic and performing arts. Within a few months, we have close to 100 members of the youth who are seriously involved with that. They have 6 or 7 state-of-the-art Macintosh computers, all loaded with Adobe Premiere. So we have a situation now where there are close to 100 youth who had no place to go, who were not interested in sports. These children and young adults are now beginning to shoot, edit, and produce their own digital videos. We have our own sound system for those interested in doing music, and the center's about to launch a web-based radio station, and they're fully prepared to apply for an FCC license for low-power community-based radio station. While this is sponsored by and paid for by the Village of Greenwich, it would not have happened without community support and involvement. This is the type of thing that Greens are really seriously interested in. One of our key values is called grassroots democracy. We really try and build that from the scratch. We understand how important that is. Our first speaker today is Ursula Rosam, a candidate for U.S. Congress from upstate New York, and typically I believe that's called Syracuse.
Yep,
Ursula?
Syracuse. Great. Thanks everyone for being here.
Ursula, here.
Oh, sure.
We just
Want to stand in the center.
Great.
You don't have to pick up the mic. Just
Okay.
address everybody from there.
Great. So I'm Ursula Rosam, a Green Party candidate for Congress in New York's 24th District. It's a tight race. It's been declared one of the top Democratic Party pickups in upstate New York, but we decided to run in this race because really we know that the Democrats and Republicans, they're unwilling to provide the solutions that we need to all the crises that we see today. And my campaign is going to be championing an economic bill of rights and also the Green New Deal to provide solutions to the jobs crisis and the climate crisis. So as in Congress, I would want to put forth a bill for zero carbon America by 2025. This would be a plan to to reduce carbon emissions by banning unconventional fossil fuels and by moving towards democratic public ownership of energy production. Right now in upstate New York, we have a serious struggle going on to ban fracking for natural gas. And we're using these kinds of fossil fuels because the energy companies, they just want more and more money, and they don't really care about our future. So what our campaign is saying is that we need to reclaim our collective future and really push policies that are going to give us more jobs, plentiful, dignified jobs, and that are going to guarantee stability for future generations. And so while I had the chance, I want to give a shout out to my friends with Marcellus Earth First that are currently blocking fracking operations in Pennsylvania forests. I'm a young person with $30,000 of student debt, and I know how that affects my life, the kinds of choices I make, the kinds of work that I look for. And I'm going to be championing an economic bill of rights that includes tuition-free public education, preschool through grad school. And while we want to forgive student debt, I think in Congress I would work to repeal the Bush-era bankruptcy reforms that now prevent people from discharging their student debt through bankruptcy, because I really believe that too many, not just young people, it's really people into their elderly age that are really held back by student debt in this country. And I think that it's a message that we've heard it loud and clear from the Occupy movement, the Occupy student debt, and there's great things happening around the country. So my campaign is going to be working with students to put this message forward that we can have this. And so I'm running for Congress, and it's exciting. We have a growing campaign. People are really excited to see an alternative, and I think it's really exciting to be a young person running for Congress. And yeah, I look forward to hearing what other candidates have to say about their local races. Thanks.
Well, as you can tell, Ursula is a really dynamic person. She does have other experience as well. She was the campaign manager for Howie Hawkins' most recent race for city council in Syracuse. It was the race that Howie lost by a mere
82 votes.
82 votes. He came so darn close. Our next featured speaker would be George Gluck. Here on my right, he's a candidate for U.S. Congress from the great state of Maryland.
Thank you. Let me start by mentioning what I have in common with Ursula. We're both running for Congress, and we're both young. I say that because we have another member of Maryland Green Party contingent who's running for Congress who's 92. So I consider myself young anyway. In addition to that, I'm going to spend a minute here saying this. I had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Bloomberg about 3 or 4 years ago, and I apologized to him. And he asked me why I apologized, and I said, because I grew up in New York City in an era when education was very important. I guess it always will be, but I got the greatest education anybody could get, from kindergarten right through college. I had a state scholarship, so it cost me nothing. Unlike Ursula, I came out with an incredible education. The very last semester I was in Brooklyn College, the New York City instituted a city income tax, and since I was working in the biology department and for the city part-time, I think I may have paid $10 or $12 in taxes. So I got this incredible education that allowed me to do everything I've done up to this point, to help buy a house, buy a car, all the things that Ursula is going to have trouble, and folks like her are going to have trouble doing. So I apologize that I left the city and did not get to pay any taxes to the city. The mayor absolved me and said, as long as I come to visit and pay, spend money there in the city would be okay. So in fact, I've done that with, so far, 3 of my 5 grandkids. At the end of this month, we're taking number 4 up for a weekend in New York. At any rate, aside from that, all these questions, Ursula brought up some, fracking and the like, all of these are important, and we need to get to them all. But before we can, I think the things we need to do is take care of our electoral process first, and I'm hoping if I get to Congress, we'll start with that. We certainly need to get rid of Citizens United. We need a constitutional amendment to do that. Money is not speech, and corporations are not people, and we have to finally come to that conclusion. In addition to that, even when we get rid of that, we'll still be, it's like taking the first wrapping off the onion. There's still one underneath that, and that is we need to make sure that, I think we can get there in time. But public, if you offer money to somebody, a public official like a policeman, we used to call that, probably still call it bribery, but that's not true for our Congress. And I think we need to finally come to the conclusion that public office should be paid for with public funds. And finally, even with all that, I urge you to look at WisconsinWave.org. They recently started an appeal to look at the voting that took place during the last vote in Michigan, the recall vote, because there seemed to have been, as has been over the last decade, redshift. And we should all take a look at that site, WisconsinWave.org, maybe make a contribution to them if you can, so that they can in fact recount and see what really happened in Wisconsin. So I'll leave just saying that. That's the most important thing we need to do before we do anything else. And there are terribly many important things we need to do to go back to the way this country was when I grew up, when I was Ursula's age.
Thank you, George. Our next speaker is Lee Aiken from the District of Columbia. Lee, I believe you're running for the shadow seat, if you will. Yes. So if you can stand in front of the microphone and let us know.
Yes, I'm the shadow representative candidate. We also have a shadow Senate candidate. And we are shadow because we don't actually have a vote. In fact, the person who is actually sitting there as a regular representative, she doesn't have a vote either. And we also have a candidate, Lino Stracuzzi, running against her. At any rate, it is a good, just running, even though the likelihood of winning is not that high. It's a wonderful opportunity to get out and talk about the issue and make people aware that we don't have a vote, but we pay 100% taxes. We have 40% vote with a president and a vice president, but we pay 100% taxes. Puerto Rico, on the other hand, pays no taxes. So that's an important issue, and it goes along with things like move to amend. We really need to change some things. Now, I have been thinking about, for a long time, about some of the issues having to do with greenness and welfare and unemployment and things like that. 50 years ago, I took a course in ecology, and I realized it was going to be one of the critical issues of the age, and I have been following the green issues ever since then. However, as we went through various business cycles throughout my life, I could see that unemployment and stable employment was an extremely important issue, and a lot of things that are green are connected with this. 35 years ago, I started working on an idea to normalize the employment situation and people's work. I believe that we have come to a time in our history when we are ready for a new development. Like the labor movement 100 years ago got us down to the 40-hour work week. I think that everybody has so much stuff in the Western world. We don't need to work so much to get all this stuff, which causes so much pollution. We need to have people actually working a little bit less, but having more time to spend doing worthwhile things, green activities, gardening, etc. So today I have brought a semifinal draft of what I call a new national lifestyle. As teachers often work 10 months of the year and can either be paid 1/12 salary 12 months of the year or 1/10 salary 10 months of the year, this is an idea to have people get the opportunity to work 3/4 a year, full-time if they want, half of the year, and have this all planned ahead of time so that they have income and so they know that they're going to be returning to work. They can go home, they can put in a big spring garden and do fall preserving. They can do community action projects. And this plan is a way that could be easily done, just like daylight savings time was done, totally voluntary. I only have a few copies with me, but if anybody would like to have a copy and really study it and then give me their feedback, I would love to have it.
Thank you, Lee. Our last featured speaker today will be Ken Walski, who is a U.S. Senate candidate from New Jersey. Ken?
Thank you. I am campaigning to end the influence of corporate money on the electoral process, to end the destructive and ineffective war on drugs, and to ensure free and universal health care for all Americans. I've worked as a registered nurse for 36 years. I've worked in intensive care units and coronary care units. I also worked for 22 years for the state of New Jersey in the state prison system. Today, I'm executive director of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey. In the entire Congress, not a single senator is willing to support medical marijuana legislation, despite the fact that over 70% of Americans support access to medical marijuana. This is indicative of a great disconnect between elected officials and the American public. The political process in America is inherently corrupting by its influence and reliance on money. Politicians in America no longer represent the people of the United States. They represent their corporate donors, special interests, and financial donors. The Greens do not accept corporate donations. This is our strength, that we cannot be bought. We represent the people. We will not be a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. In Trenton, New Jersey, where I live, 25% of the people live in poverty. One of the few industries that is thriving is the prison industrial complex. When I started working in the state prison system in 1984, there were 8,000 inmates in the system. When I retired in 2006, there were 27,000 inmates in the system, and over 80% of those were Black and Hispanic. The explosion of the prison population was a direct result of the war on drugs. We are making war on our own citizens in this country. The war on drugs is the most destructive policy this country has ever had. We are spending billions of dollars to stop drug use, and the result is that drugs are cheaper, drugs are more potent, and drugs are more available than ever. We are creating poverty, violence, and second-class citizenship in our inner cities, and we are making the drug problem worse, not better. A vote for me is a vote to end the destructive war on drugs. A vote for me is also a vote for free and universal health care for all Americans. Our current health care system focuses far too much on profit and not enough on outcomes. We are already paying enough money to provide free universal health care for all Americans. We're simply not getting it. We need to expand a Medicare-like program to all Americans, not just those over 65. Health care is a right, not some privilege for the wealthy or for someone who is lucky enough to get it through some accident of employment. America needs to focus on preventive medicine. We must stop our constant crisis management in healthcare, and we must focus on improved outcomes for all Americans, and we will be a better country and a healthier country for it. Together, we can bring about a government that is responsive to the needs of its citizens. Together, we can bring about a world that is no longer at war with itself. And together, we can bring about a world where health care is free and available to all Americans. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Ken, and thanks for reminding us that if we leave the elections to Democrats and Republicans, there will be no discussion, no serious discussion of Medicare for all, real universal health care. There'll be no discussion of the failure of war on drugs, no discussion of the record high rate of incarceration in the United States. Now I would like to introduce the other candidates who are with us today. And our list here. David Collins is running for, actually, why don't you gather behind me? Why doesn't everybody gather behind me right now? David Collins is running for the U.S. Senate in Texas. Harley Mickelson is running for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. Rhett Smith is running for the U.S. House in Texas in the 14th Congressional District.
And also a presidential candidate.
And also your presidential candidate, that's true. Joe Galdo is running for the U.S. House in Virginia's 11th Congressional District. Jeff Russell is running for the U.S. Senate in Connecticut. Misha Luzoff is running for the U.S. House in Colorado, and I believe that's the 5th Congressional District. And I save the DC candidates till last because you notice we have our DC statehood Green Party banner behind us. We are fighting for statehood in the District of Columbia. And among the leaders in this fight are the DC statehood Green candidates, Lino Stracuzzi, Natale Stracuzzi, what do you prefer?
Natale Lino Stracuzzi.
Okay, and you're running for the non-voting delegate position in the U.S. House of Representatives. That's currently occupied by Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Yes.
And Ann Wilcox is running for City Council in D.C. She was not able to be here at our state and local candidates press conference earlier this morning, so you're here now, and that's for the at-large seat. And David Schwartzman is running for Shadow Senate in D.C. And we met Lee a little bit earlier. So now we're going to open the program for questions, and all of the candidates who are with us can respond. Just be concise. Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Can any of the candidates speak to, have any of you been invited to debates or had a chance to engage, the Democratic or Republican candidate that you're opposing, or is it, mostly a grassroots effort at this point?
Well, we're always grassroots, but if anybody has I think they've all participated in the candidates forums, but if anybody has a good story, anybody has a good account about participation, why don't you come up?
I'll just say briefly.
And identify yourself,
yes.
too.
Ann Wilcox, running for City Council at Large in D.C. D.C. is one of those one-party towns when you have basically 80% Democratic registration. We have a fairly large Republican registration, and then the D.C. statehood Greens have about 5,000 registered voters. And we are in many of the debates leading up to the primary, neighborhood associations, ward-level debates. But then as soon as as the primary is over, then they're don't run any longer, and so we very rarely get to engage with the Democratic candidates in debates after that. So then it's a matter of going out to community meetings and just making your voice heard. Thank you. Thanks.
I wouldn't mind touching base on that.
Identify yourself.
Natale Stracuzzi with the Statehood Green Party. I could actually say that I've been involved with a couple forums with Ms. Norton, and I do claim victory. It is very rare that I do meet her at a forum because I have to say, mostly happens east of the river where I live. And I have to say, since I've moved to Southeast, the people there and the organizations are much more open to third-party candidates, and they're inclusive. And that's a good thing in some ways. And I do claim victory at the Ward 8 forum 2 years ago. And I also met her this year at the American Islamic Heritage Museum, where they had a forum that was called Last Minute to Come Out, and she was there, so it gave me another opportunity, which is a great point. But our candidates that are running against us, they don't want to debate us. They don't want to be part of the system, because basically if they are, they give us an opportunity to win. So we have to push harder and harder to make our issues known and let the media let us know about us and let us interview us so they do know, because we have big corruption in D.C. and it's all because of the corrupt money that's involved. And they're part of getting these people elected because we have tons of people on the ballot. So I hope they are more open-minded third parties than the other candidates that are running. Thank you.
Jeff?
We've had a lot of official debates in Connecticut, and consistently our Green Party candidates, in spite of having support for participation, have been locked out consistently. And that's for federal office seekers, statewide office seekers, congressional office seekers, and local. The only participant in a debate that I know of has been Scott Deschaphy, who ran 2 years ago in our 2nd congressional district and did a wonderful job. He was an excellent debater.
Go ahead. Stand up and
Oh, yeah, okay.
right at that place.
Ann Wilcox and I were initially running for the at-large seat. Ann won, but we had a chance to go out to a number of the major forums and debate along with the four Democrats and one Republican candidate. And a funny story is connected with Vincent Orange, who is now one of the at-large DC City Council people. And he was bragging about how his experience went back a number of years. I think, do you remember what year he said 98 or 2004 or something like that. And when I got up and spoke, I said, I'm very upset that there is a person here who was in office a long time, and he has not seen fit to make our deductions and exemptions the same as the federal, which is what they were when we got what's the word for it? When we were home rule in 1974, and we have fallen back so far on that, and I think it's outrageous that our city council has allowed that to happen. So when I sat down, he looked at me and he kind of bent over and he said, "What year did you say that was?" I said, 2005, that's when Catania introduced the bill to couple our rates, and you were there, and I would love to know how you voted.
Sure.
Thank you. George Gluck again. I'd like to give you a concrete example of the problem related to your question. Last time I ran for local office, I should mention Montgomery County. I ran for an at-large position, Montgomery County Council. Montgomery County has about 2/3 of the registered voters are Democrats. One of the forums that I had hoped to be invited to was, oddly, being a Green Party member and was not invited to, was one by the Sierra Club, our local Sierra Club. So I went to the president and said, "Doesn't it make sense to have a Green Party member be part of this?" And he said, "Well, you have no primary, so we're not going to invite you." I said, "Well, then, after the primary is over, you'll have another one, won't you? And then I will be invited." And he said, "Of course, we'll think about that." Well, as was stated before, Montgomery County, the Democratic primary is the election, more often than not. And so there was no further forum as far as Sierra Club was concerned. I will say I have been invited to one forum in the fall, in September, and assuming that we're successful in our petition drive, we'll find out hopefully before September, and then I will be attending that.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, quickly. David Schwartzman, U.S. Senate in D.C. The underlying problem is not simply getting into debates, candidates forum, which attracts a limited number of people. It's the financing of the elections. The Wilson Building in D.C. houses the mayor and the city council, and I call it corporate occupied territory, because the weight of corporate money, big developers, is tremendous, and we do not, like the Green Party nationally, do not accept corporate donations. And that point has to be made very clear, and I think the public will respond given the corporate pollution of elections. And one other point, DC has been in the news now with the mayor possibly getting under indictment. This is reflective of illegal corruption, but there is legal corruption, and that's the donations and the corporate money that buys elections. And one example, I ran in 2010 against David Catania, who was mentioned. He spent $500,000. I spent 1/20th the money, but I got 1/5 the vote. We need public funding of elections.
It's worth mentioning here that a few years ago, when Mitt Romney was running for governor of Massachusetts, he faced Jill Stein, who is the front-running candidate for the Green Party's presidential nomination this year. He faced Jill Stein in a candidates debate that was televised in Massachusetts, a gubernatorial debate. And the outcome of the debate was, it was widely recognized that Jill Stein did the best performance. And in one of the newspapers, I forget which one, Jill Stein, not Mitt Romney again, Jill Stein was identified as the adult in the room. So, we hope that we see at least some level at which Jill Stein is able to debate the Democratic and Republican presidential candidates. We're crossing our fingers. We're fighting hard for that. Do we have any more questions before we move on?
Just surveying the crowd, obviously several people have spoken about running previous campaigns. Some of you said your first time out. I'm just wondering, by show of hands, how many is it the first campaign they're running versus multiple attempts? So these first timers, one, two, and then multiple. Everyone else has run multiple campaigns.
We'll take one more question if anybody has a question. And what I'd like to do is keep everybody up here. I'll get out of the way, so anybody wants to take some. Oh, do you have a question?
Does anybody have anything to say about energy, solar energy?
Solar energy, Jeff, then Dave, and then.
You want to?
Okay. Okay. Please be brief and start off with Jeff.
For the last approximately month, I've been living at the home of a friend who gave me space to work on my car. He has a passive solar house with solar photovoltaic and solar thermal collectors on the roof. And there's something really marvelous about taking a shower with solar heated hot water. It's wonderful. We are both amateur radio operators, so on an event called Amateur Radio Field Day, I operated an amateur radio transmitter powered by solar charged batteries. And it all goes to show that it's possible. I've been driving Volkswagen diesels for a couple of decades because I was a motorcycle mechanic and I was disabled by exhaust gas fumes from a gasoline engine. And I'm very sensitive to gasoline vapors and gasoline exhaust. Diesel doesn't bother me as much. But for the last 3 diesel vehicles I've had, I have been blending vegetable oil, which is a form of stored solar energy, into my petroleum diesel fuel. And I actually got better performance. I got more horsepower and I got more miles per gallon. But the example of the house I'm staying at right now is that it's all possible. It can be done. The family also has a Ford Escort that's converted to battery power, which can be charged off the solar photovoltaic array, a hybrid car, and a lot of other energy-saving habits that, if adopted, would really help our planet, our economy, and all of the people here in the United States. Thank you.
Dave?
Well, thanks for that question. First, I'll announce that I'm giving a workshop on this issue at 2 o'clock. I'm an environmental scientist, newly retired from Howard University, and this is one of my main focus in my research. And it's not simply going solar in a big way, which we are starting to, and we're starting to do that in the communities, including my block, where we formed a little solar co-op. They're growing up like mushrooms all over DC and around the country. But we need to connect this to climate change issue. And we need to curb carbon emissions. And the climate treaty record, the climate record of the administration is pathetic. Focusing on all sources, including so-called clean coal, promoting frack gas, are recipes for disaster in terms of the climate, because that will increase the carbon emissions and the warming. We're already over the limit. We have very little time left, and we have to rapidly solarize, but we also have to radically and quickly curb carbon emissions. And the two have to go together. And both issues are connected to the issue of the foreign policy and resource wars and an imperial agenda which is threatening the world because we don't have the degree of cooperation where everyone can pitch in globally and make a transition to solar. And that includes all the producing countries like in the Middle East and Venezuela. We need to use the energy we have to make a transition while we still have conventional oil in the ground. So I finally, Jill Stein's focus on the Green New Deal is absolutely priceless and essential to this campaign. And that's why I'm so proud to be a Green Party member.
Go ahead, and then George.
So, I'm running in the 5th Congressional District of Colorado against Doug Lamborn. It's a heavily militarized district. Just in Colorado Springs, where I live, there are 5 military bases. And I was recently struck to find out that the military actually takes the threat of climate change more seriously than the incumbent does. He sees it as a very distant threat, if it's a threat at all. And currently we're facing the fracking issue in our community. There's a lot of opposition to it, but the company Ultra, which already has a history of pretty serious disasters with this technique, is already permitted to start operations in Colorado Springs. I just left after a city council meeting about this issue. So I very much agree with the foregoing statement. I think that the price of burning fossil fuels and producing fossil fuels is underestimated, and if it was truly part of the price, if it was an internal cost, then all these fossil fuels would already stay in the ground.
Did somebody else want to address this? Please address it very briefly.
Yes, I'm G. Lee Aiken, Washington, D.C. I have been very interested in solar for many years. I recently started a blog, and my significant other, Don Wharton, has already posted a guest post at my blog, and he plans to do a series on solar energy, and particularly the economics of solar energy. Actually, I owe it to solar energy that I am now running for office, because I testified a year ago when PEPCO, our local utility, was not buying our locally produced solar energy, and I testified, and apparently I did a pretty good job, as did many other people. And in August there was a victory party because the council was going to vote for the bill, and somebody talked to me and said, "You really ought to run for the Green Party." So anyway, I owe it all to solar.
A quick one. I may be the only one on the panel here. My wife and I actually have solar panels on our roof. We heat our water with solar panels and also generate electricity. We were asked to turn off our phones, or I could show you an app that would show you exactly hour by hour how much electricity was generated on our roof today. And if somebody wants to look at it later, I'll be happy to show it to you. When we put it up on the roof, the company that put it up said it is generating half the energy we use, including an electric car I intend to buy. So, and by the way, my wife and I both drive Priuses, which get close to 50 miles per gallon already. So as soon as mine dies, I will buy an electric car. I should also say, all of us here and Green Party members in general, we try to hold our meetings where folks can reach them by public transportation. So we try to live a green life as much as possible, both individually and as a group. Okay, I'll just leave it at that.
Go ahead, identify yourself.
I'm David Collins. I'm running for U.S. Senate for the state of Texas. Houston, where I've spent nearly 40 years of my life, is considered an energy capital, a worldwide energy capital. But right now it is highly symbolic of fracking, deep water drilling, tar sands, mountaintop removal. These are 4 symptoms of the fact that the energy company's policy for the 21st century is a policy of desperation. We are digging deeper. We are having to scar the planet that much more. And it's hugely profitable for these companies. But I envision Houston becoming, in the 21st century, a capital for alternative energy, which of course includes solar as just part of the recipe. We are already involved in wind power initiatives all over the state of Texas. You had solar, wind, ocean thermal gradients, hydrogen power, and some members of the Harris County and Texas Green parties have been advocating for a proposal to put solar collectors on the moon, far-fetched and Gingrich-ish as that may sound, but it would result in huge increases in the efficiency if you broadcast the energy collected on the moon back to the Earth through microwaves. And there is a display over in the Law Center that you can check out if you want to see that. It's not fancy multimedia, it's just a display board like a science fair project. But we can do this now with a fairly large investment, obviously, but with 1980s technology that is already proven. Look forward to talking to other folks about that.
Natalia Stracuzzi, running for delegate to U.S. House of Representatives for the State of the Green Party. I'd like to bring up that I think that if you really look at things in solar in general, these are things that we need to start implementing at our building level when we have new construction going on, because these are where the real savings are going to start and come from, based on the fact that average people do not have the funds to do these type of scenarios. But if you have a project in place and you put together the solar plan to make buildings more cleaner energy efficient, to produce cleaner energy, less emissions and such, I think you're going to see everything grow better. Now, I am a realist, and I do understand that we're not done with fossil fuels, but we need to start investing in alternative energy, or we're going to deplete what's going on. Because the fact of the matter, like our body, what we put into it is what we get out of it. And if we don't think about it, it cannot change. So I hope that people do look at it. Solar is a way to change the earth and to make it better, but also just that we need to look at it in new construction-based type industries, because that's where the money's at, and that's where we can make the big changes right now in the bigger way. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'd like to remind everyone that you're all invited to one of our future conventions when we hold our communal shower with solar-heated hot water. I guess there are no further questions, but I would like to keep everybody up here right now so photographers can take some great pictures of our candidates running for the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at our press conference, 9 a.m. at the Holiday Inn Inner Harbor in downtown Baltimore. Thanks.